It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Listen, folks, I'm here to tell you our political system is broken. The two-party system is dead. They have become one and the same.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host. Favorite host.
This is always the killer, the one that just destroys that never Trump argument. Hillary Clinton will fill the Supreme Court with liberals. She'll also appoint federal judges with a liberal bent to them.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Don't let anybody tell you that it's corporations and businesses that create jobs.
Arrogant, sanctimonious, self-righteous, sabotaging Trump.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford. I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not. Everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now. The government's going to pay for it, but we're going to save so much money on the other side.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS. Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said.
What realizes that the Bill Kristols of the world, the never Trump people, they were just never serious. They never had any kind of ground game. They never had an actual candidate they could pick.
And in a surprising and disturbing move today, the Libertarian vice presidential candidate just agreed that rifles are weapons of mass destruction and people on the terror watch list should not be allowed to purchase guns. So in other words, the party of freedom is liberty for me but not for thee.
Compromise where you can. Where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move. It is your duty to plant yourself like a tree.
Hello, America. This is Rick Robinson. Welcome to America Off the Rails. I do have a guest with me today. We have Miss Bella Blue, that you may remember from Finding Common Ground, who actually did some guest host stint with us. She's also been on America Off the Rails within the last few weeks. She's back with us today. We're going to be talking about the upcoming debate. We're also going to be talking about some local stuff here in Oklahoma. And basically just giving you guys another chance to maybe get to know a little bit more about her, since we have had an uptick in our listenership lately. Again, want to thank everybody who's been checking out the show lately. The numbers for the last few shows have been absolutely phenomenal. Want to welcome all the new listeners. Thank you. Hope you guys stick around. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So hello, Miss Bella. How are you?
I'm great. Good evening. Hello, and thank you.
Awesome to have you back. All right, so if you don't mind, that just in case, because we do have a lot of new folks that have been tuning in lately. The last few shows are starting to hit anywhere from 500 to 1,000 listeners, even here on Spreaker, which doesn't even count the other syndication points. So since we've got a lot of new folks listening, they may not know too much about you yet. Why don't you go ahead and we'll back things up a little bit, give you a chance to tell folks a little bit about yourself and who you are, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you for the opportunity once again to be on the show and to bring people up to date on my background. I have a degree in political science, and I am a graduate of the University of Oklahoma. I am also now in a paralegal program at Rose State College to get my paralegal certification and possibly go on to law school. And so I've been involved in political campaigns and working for the legislature since I was in my teens. I've also been in the radio business, doing commercials on air, and also just about every aspect that you could think of in radio, from sales to traffic to researching for talk show hosts. And so I've got the radio, the politics, all of that culminating, and now going to just really put some law into all of it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm super busy. I'm definitely busy, but I'm learning a lot. So things are good.
Well, you know what they say, the day you stop learning, you might as well hang it up. So law school, huh? You're really thinking about that? I'm just curious because, I actually thought about it once, and I kind of went the other way. And instead of becoming a lawyer, I actually kind of went into the law enforcement aspect of things. So I'm just curious, how I don't know. I mean, is it because you like to talk a lot?
How'd that happen?
Well, yeah. I mean, is it because you like to talk a lot?
Well,
because I had a grandfather who said that about me once, and he said you'd make a great lawyer because you like to talk the woohoos off a brass monkey.
You know what? It's okay. It is good that you want to. It's good to talk about a lot of things, and it is good to talk a lot. I think people, they tend to make the jokes, oh, you argue well, you'll be a great lawyer, or you like to talk a lot, you'll be a great attorney. But the truth is you have to know what you're talking about, because, any monkey can go to law school, but they got to show up for class. But with that being said, when I got my degree in political science, I was 23 years old, and I went to work for the state of Oklahoma for 3 years. I was in the Department of Corrections, the Corporation Commission, and I did work at the Capitol. And in that time frame, it was really expected of me to go to law school after obtaining that degree, because that is typically where a lot of people kind of go to next. Or you work for campaigns, or you work in a government capacity of some sort. And after working for 3 years for state government, I decided I wanted nothing to do with that and became very disenchanted with politics and just felt like a lot of things were being shoved down my throat throughout college. And so I took a long break. But lately, I think I'm very concerned about the world. My views have changed, and things that were not important to me back then are important to me now. I would like to make a change. I would like to be a lawyer in the ACLU capacity, civil rights. So, yes, I'm definitely thinking, going through this paralegal program, I'm working very hard, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I think I probably could handle law school. It's been a grueling few weeks for me, but I think I can handle it. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
I mean, if anybody can do it, I'm sure you'll be the one to pull it off.
Oh, that is so sweet of you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that vote of confidence.
Well, I mean, we've known each other for a while. You're a pretty hard worker. And like I said, if anybody can pull it off, I'm pretty sure it's going to be you. All right, so do you want to start off local or you want to start off national? You're the guest. I'll let you pick.
Oh, well, I wanted to start with local.
Okay.
I wanted to start with the Oklahoma 2016 ballot measures. I have actually, for extra credit in school, gone to a few of the town hall meetings that had one rep. There was one Republican rep. Well, actually, she was in the Senate. 2 reps in the Democratic party of the House for the state of Oklahoma, and a reporter, Ben Fielder, from the Oklahoman. And that was a very interesting panel because we were able to text in questions to them, and they, had to respond. So we were able to find out what was important to them, what issues were important to them, how they dealt with their campaigns and their constituencies, and just very interesting, their stories of actually how they got into politics, what motivated them. And so I really understand what their stance is on these questions. I mean, they've literally gone through each question and given their opinion. I will tell you, however, the last town hall meeting I went to, I was disappointed because the Republican candidate, and I won't mention his name, didn't show up. So it was difficult to hear only one side on the questions. I was dying to hear the other side of it. But I don't know what happened that evening, and I'm sure there was a good reason he wasn't there. But even with that being said, I was still able to still get kind of an impression of the opinions when we met in the other panel where the Republican senator came on, and she definitely let us know where her party stood on everything. So you tell me how you would like to proceed. I can, we can just start with the first one if you'd like, or
sure.
Any one of them. There's
no, just
7.
Go ahead and go down the list. Since you've already done a lot of this, why don't you just name it off and you can give your point of view. I'll give mine.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for the freedom here. Okay, so first one, death penalty. So this would provide, it's the State Question 776, provides constitutional justification for death penalty statutes. And I think a little bit more designed to assert that all methods of execution shall be constitutionally allowed unless prohibited by the United States Constitution and designated statutorily by the legislature. Then we go on to State Question 777, which is in regards to agriculture, to add a right to farm to the state constitution. This was designed to establish a constitutional guarantee for farmers and ranchers to engage in farming and ranching practices. Originally, I believe, set out for the corporate farms, but the local farmer will benefit as well. State Question 779 involving taxes, our favorite thing. Increase the state sales tax by 1%. State Question 780 is law enforcement. Here's your area. Reclassification of some drug and property crimes as misdemeanors. In other words, they're wanting to basically have all nonviolent offenses as a misdemeanor. In other words, you can go through the system as many times like a revolving door, and all you will ever have is a misdemeanor unless you are proved to be trafficking large amounts, or if you are, trying to sell it maybe in a smaller capacity, distribution or trafficking. But other than that, they want to take all the money away and not charge these felonies and close down prisons so that the money can be appropriated to mental health and rehabilitation programs. But we'll go back through these and give our opinions. I'm just going to go through the list.
Sure.
Then State Question 781 is actually the funding of the rehab programs with funds from basically the reclassification of the drug and property crimes as misdemeanors. Then we have State Question 790, which I think is a hotbed of opinion. Repeal the prohibition on public money being spent for religious purposes. And last but not least, the State Question 792 regarding alcohol, which would give the grocery and convenience stores full-strength beer and wine. So, basically, if we go back to Question 790, the prohibiting of public money from being spent for religious purposes, that's kind of something that I definitely want to hear your opinion about. But there were at least 13 initiatives that were filed for that did not go through. And one of them was the expansion of health care. And as bureaucracy has it, things weren't filed and there was delays and so forth and so on, of course, so it didn't make it on the ballot. And then, of course, the legalization of medical marijuana, same thing. So, and then there's also some questions that are being proposed that are not on the ballot, but those were for storm shelters in schools, the prohibiting abortion, allowing the retail sale of wine and beer, not more than 8.99% alcohol in the grocery stores, allowing grocery stores to sell beer and wine and small brewers to sell beer at on-site tap rooms, also allowing retail package stores to sell their products on any day of the year except Thanksgiving and Christmas. Legalizing, again, like I said, the possession of marijuana for medicinal purposes. So those are still, lingering as proposed ballots, but those definitely didn't make it on the state question official ballot now. So we can go back over them if you'd like and talk about them.
No, that's fine. We might as well, I guess, start working backwards. The last one that actually officially made it to the ballot was the one about public funding for religious stuff, if memory serves. My answer to that's probably going to surprise you. For those of you who don't know what this is actually about, this is a way to circumvent the state constitution that currently says that there is no grounds to have religious monuments on any type of public property, like a courthouse, things like that. Now, a lot of folks that I know are perfectly okay with this idea of removing that restriction, but I don't think they've thought it through very well. Because one of the things the Equal Protection Clause would do, if you wind up making it to the point where there's no public restrictions for public money to be used for religious beliefs, etc., then we're going to be right back where we started from, where, yeah, it's going to be fine to put the Ten Commandment monument right there on the courthouse, but you're going to have the crazy-looking, ugly statue of one of the demons sitting right next to it. Look, I mean, the thing with this is, as a Christian, can I just say this? We don't need to put God back in the schools. We don't need to put the Ten Commandments in the courthouse, because our entire justice system, as far as the layman's terms and the actual common law of our justice system, is founded on those very 10 principles that we're talking about. We don't need them there. They're symbols. We don't need them. If you want to talk about where Christianity needs to be, it needs to be in your home. Quit telling people that they need to let your kids pray in school. Why are you not praying with them at the dinner table?
I agree with you 100% on that.
And I'm sure you were surprised.
I personally believe in the separation of church and state.
I don't necessarily believe that it was intended as a separation, at least not the way that it is. But the thing about it is, now that it's kind of like the whole idea of Team America World Police. No, I don't like the idea that we're basically the world's police force. But now that we are, when we pull away from things, there are unintended consequences. This is going to be the same type of scenario. Yeah, I don't necessarily think it was intended to be used the way it's being used, but now if we start trying to pull away from that use that has become a common law practice, it's going to start affecting things that we're not thinking through. And that's what scares me. I mean, look, I'm all for putting whatever statues you want to put on the courthouse, as long as you understand that somebody else with a crazy religion can do the same thing. I mean, we're going to have like the Pastafarian religion with a statue of the chick that took the picture with the pasta strainer on her forehead sitting right there next to the Ten Commandments. If we let this happen, and it just doesn't make any sense to me, because first of all, we're broke. We can't afford to be giving any public money to religious stuff because we're already broke anyway. Okay, so anyway, that's my thoughts on that one.
There's a million other things that this state needs other than that. So
yeah, and that ain't it.
I think it's pretty safe to say we've got common ground there.
All right, so let's.
I am actually interested in how you feel though about the misdemeanor and the criminal question.
That will probably surprise you as well. For those of you who've been following along for a while, you know that I have people in my life that have gotten themselves mixed up in things like marijuana and a few other things. I'm not going to give any names or give any details, but one of the things that has happened is in their quest to remain out of the legal system, they have tried to find other ways to get the same feeling they get from the marijuana, and they have gotten mixed up in this K2 crap. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a synthetic marijuana that is basically sold in the smoke shops. But it's put in packaging that says not fit for human consumption, and that's how they can get away with selling it. And what happens is the state legislature will find out the ingredients that are in it, they will ban it, they will make it illegal, it'll come off the shelves for about 2 to 3 weeks. Whoever's making the stuff changes one ingredient and it's right back in there. The thing that's really scary about this stuff is that it actually kills people. It is actually addicting. I have seen people literally almost kill other people to get money to get that stuff because of what it does to them. So, again, my issue with a lot of this is addictions are a terrible thing. If we're going to get really technical, I have family that are alcoholics. I had an uncle who basically drank himself to death. His liver failed.
I as well.
So, I think, honestly, and some people are going to try to yank my conservative card for this, but I think this is actually a smart move for several reasons. One, the money that's being currently sunk into these private prisons can actually be put to seeing about possibly making these people better. Now, what concerns me is I'm afraid it's going to become a lot like our education system, because we always do everything with our education system with our best intentions. Everybody always says, but it's got to be for the children's. That's why we did the casinos. And that's why we've done the lottery, because we were told if we do these things, then we're going to get this money that's going to be earmarked for education. But what do they do every time they earmark something for education? They decrease the general budget by however much they're actually bringing in for the education, so they're not really doing anything with the money. Go ahead.
Let me just say something though about the funding that you're talking about for schools from the lotteries and casinos. That is being used, I found out from a source, in higher education, which is great and awesome and wonderful. But if we do not fund schools at the youth level, the lower level, I guess, education, I mean, if we don't take care of it there isn't going to be anybody interested in the higher education. If we're going to pour everything into the higher education, that's just not what I believe it was intended for.
Well, no, and I get that. And believe it or not, some of that money, and we'll get to that in a little more detail when we get to the state tax question, but some of that money was always intended to be earmarked for higher education. But what they've done every single time is when they start bringing in all this money from the alternate sources that's supposed to be going for education, what they'll wind up doing is, that money will go where it's supposed to go, but then instead of the state keeping the extra money that they had before that was going to education and possibly sinking it right back into education, they will actually shrink the general budget. Matching whatever dollar amount they're getting from these alternate sources, they remove that amount from the budget. They actually did that a few years ago and gave everybody a $22, $25 check, unless of course you were rich and then you got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It was a great selling point for them, and back then I was still firmly in the Republican camp and was like, woohoo, great, I got $22, let's go to dinner. Now I'm looking at the unintended consequences of that going, what did we do? But that's the same thing back to this, the original question, which was about the misdemeanor changes to drug laws. I think it is a great idea. I think it's well past time that it happens. But I'm also afraid of what our state is going to do once those monies start getting pulled away from prisons and they're supposed to start going into rehab and treatment, etc. The problem with a lot of our states, and a lot of other states for that matter, is the money always winds up going into administrative costs, not actually doing the things that they say they're going to do with it. So I am for
more
it.
pork spending.
Exactly.
And you're right. The state of Oklahoma will find any ridiculous thing to spend that money on other than what it needs to be, which is the rehab programs and definitely mental health programs. You and I have talked about that. We're very low nationwide with assistance for the mental health. And if you want to look at the big picture of the prisons and the crimes and the drug problem and all of it, it all stems from a very large portion of society that needs the mental health assistance. But then you also have the portion where people don't want that help. I mean, the funding definitely should go for the people that want to get the help and that are willing to get the help. But there's always going to be this large faction out there, you and I both know, that are not going to care. They don't want to get better, and they don't really care about getting better or going into a rehab program or getting any assistance with their mental health illnesses. They'll continue to commit the crimes. What kind of a message are we sending? I'm actually flipping to your camp here. What message are we sending when we just take a felony completely away? So how many years and how often can you just continually recycle yourself in a revolving door situation with drugs and bad drugs, ecstasy, and like you said, the K2? I mean, horrible, horrible things. And it's just a racket. But the thing is, are we sending the message that go out and do whatever you want because it's just going to be a misdemeanor? And then on the flip side of that, I think that the people that do tend to have an issue with a drug habit, they're young, they get rehabilitated, they grow up, they mature, and they realize, damn, I really screwed up in the past, and then there wouldn't be a felony there so that they could continue to go on, have a good job, raise a family, and not have to live off the system.
Okay. Well, let's let's look at that though, because here's the thing. The thing about it is, I understand some of that needing to remain a felony, and that's why it specifically talks about nonviolent type stuff, where they're just basically caught with a little bit of weed or a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the thing that nobody's thinking about, that are having the same thoughts that you are, most of the time when those people are caught with those type of things, they're already doing other things. So what this is ultimately designed to do is to make sure that the people that are in one-off situations, or that have decided to maybe experiment and they're not doing anything else, and they're not driving under the influence, or they're not doing the other millions of things that a lot of people do when they are partaking of either alcohol or some form of a controlled substance, don't have their lives completely thrown away just because they got caught with a little bit of dope. And I'm okay with that, because coming from my background and my experience, most of the time when I busted somebody with a little bit of dope, it wasn't necessarily the dope that I wound up charging them with. It was the other things that they were doing, like being in actual physical control of a motor vehicle while they were under the influence of intoxicants. Those are things that you can charge people with that in certain circumstances would make it an even worse crime, now that they're going to start making a lot of these other things misdemeanors. Because if you find somebody with a little bit of pot in their pocket and you test them, and you find out that they were actually operating a motor vehicle while they were under the influence of that, that raises the scale of it. And that doesn't necessarily make it a nonviolent scenario, because if they're involved in a car accident or anything else, or they cause injury to anybody while they're operating the vehicle, then that changes the entire scale of it. But the thing about it is, we're talking about such a small population of the people to begin with. Because most everybody that does these things, I mean, you know, we both know people that do this stuff, and they do it in the privacy of their own home, and they go to work, they pay their bills. Those are the people that these laws are being changed for, not the people.
That's fine, because that cannot be for the chronic drug abusers, and they are putting other people in jeopardy. You know, so you're right. We're not talking about the gateway people. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get that. Actually, that's a very libertarian thing for you to say.
Well, I actually have moved a lot more to the libertarian side of the fence since you and I have talked. I was actually I've actually literally changed my registration to libertarian only because I can't stand the Republican Party anymore.
You changed your registration to libertarian?
Yeah, I'm actually, well, as soon as it became open, I changed, because at that point I was getting involved more here locally.
Yeah, things are rocking and rolling. Definitely. Well, congratulations.
But I'm still not going...
I'm always glad to see somebody leave the conservative Republican Party.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it the conservative Republican Party anymore. Now it's just the crazy Republican Party. But I still haven't gone the Gary Johnson route. I'm still not down in the edibles every chance I get. But that's another story for another day.
I wonder if it's true, like they say about Jim Morrison and Elvis. Maybe Ronald Reagan is hopefully out there somewhere, and we just need to find him and bring him back.
I don't know.
That was truly our last great president.
I mean, at this point, even zombie Reagan would be better than either one of these two.
Zombie Reagan would be better than that.
All right. Well, we've got to take a really quick break. Believe it or not,
I've been reading your principles and your preambles and your platform, and I'm quite impressed with it, to say the least. So. It's got a lot of both sides in it. Do you kind of agree? I don't think it's all cut and dry. I think there's a lot of gray areas.
Yeah, they're kind of the gray area down the middle type folks. To a point, there are some things that they've done that have annoyed me this cycle, but I'm still going to try to make sure that they get to stay on the ballot. But folks, we've got to take a really quick break, pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to keep talking state questions. Going to get in as many of them as we can in the hour, but I want to make sure we save at least 5 to 10 minutes to talk about some pre-debate, basically some pre-debate predictions, so to speak. So we'll be right back here in just a couple minutes.
Stay tuned. Things are going to get real interesting. You're listening to the Spark Radio Network.
You need to put the Kumbaya song on there.
Maybe for next time.
When I was reading the Libertarian Party platform, I thought about Kumbaya.
Nice.
I actually have a few interesting things to say when we get to the national part, so I'm excited. It's cool. It's definitely good.
Alright, well, since we're recording, I can just put the commercials in later, so give me just a second. We're going to come right back. Alright, folks, welcome back to America Off the Rails. This is Rick Robinson. I'm joined by Miss Bella Blue, who you may remember from Finding Common Ground, where she's done a few shows with me in the past, and also recently been on this one. We have been talking local politics and talking state questions. So far, we've determined that we agree on the idea that using public funding for religious reasons is probably a bad idea. Also, we seem to mostly agree on the idea of not necessarily legalizing, but defelonizing a lot of drug charges to try to get it to the point where people don't do one stupid thing and wind up with a felony on their record for the rest of their lives. I haven't looked at that one very closely, so I'm not sure if there's any type of provision for repeat offenders. That will be something that will be interesting for me, and I'll have to delve into it a little more before Election Day. But we're going to move on to the next one at this point so we can try to get them in and still have some time to talk national politics. So what's the next one on the list, Miss Bella?
Well, actually, okay, so death penalty, we haven't touched on.
See, I mean, I'm a supporter of the death penalty. It's probably one of the least libertarian things about
Now, see,
me.
You're going against your libertarian principles right
That's
there
that's what I just
in
said.
preamble section 1.6.
That's what I just said. It's probably one of the least...
You are not supportive of the death penalty. You believe in people's lives. Lives matter to you now.
Well, they do, but my thing with the death penalty is there are certain times when, to me, it's no different than basically using your right to defend yourself in regards to the Castle Doctrine, etc. When it comes to certain types of offenses and certain crimes, if you can verify that these, and this is the reason the Libertarian Party has a problem with it, is because there is a few known cases where people that were not necessarily guilty of the crimes were actually executed. So I understand their stances.
Right.
But at the same time, if you can verify and there's a trial and a jury's found this person guilty, and by law they have been found to have committed crimes that have resulted in what would be the taking of someone else's life or the other things that are typically on the table for death penalty, I don't necessarily have a problem with the death penalty. What I don't like is when it comes right down to it, it's actually cheaper to put somebody in prison for the rest of their lives than it is to deal with the death penalty by the time they jump through all the hoops. So I don't necessarily know if it's the best idea, but I am perfectly fine with trying to find other ways to complete the death penalty sentences, because one of the things that we have run into around here lately is there are so many people that are now diametrically opposed to it. The companies that found out that we were using their chemicals started pulling them, and then there were some really scary things that happened during death penalty executions, so a lot of them were being
it's the barbaric methods, and what this is talking about is making sure that even though these people are on the death row and will be given the death penalty, that the practices are still within the framework of the Constitution. They're still constitutional. I'm not saying that I don't believe that there are people that deserve it. But yeah, if you are going to talk money, keeping these people in prison for a long time, yeah, it's expensive. I don't know how much the executions themselves are.
Well, it's not.
Money involved there either way.
It's not the executions that are the problem. It's the years of appeals and the years of being housed anyway, and then it ultimately winds up, by the time it's all said and done, it usually actually winds up being cheaper to keep them in prison for life. But in my opinion, there are still people that when they do something as completely heinous as some of these people have done, the death penalty, while it might not deter everyone, is a deterrent for some. And if we take it completely off the table, I think some things would start shifting, because there are just certain people that if it wasn't for the fact that, well, if I get caught doing this, I may lose my own life, I firmly believe there would be people that would do things a little more often, but because that's just who we are to a point. I mean, we are still we're people. We make mistakes. We do stupid things. We get angry. But a lot of times, and I've seen this, and I've actually had people that I've talked to about this, and I know one guy that back when I was preaching, I was actually counseling someone who had told me, and this was when I was in my late teens, 19, 20 years old. I was actually helping out at a small church, and I was counseling someone who specifically used these words, and I'll never forget it. He said, I was literally looking at this person and I was so angry that I was seeing red. The only thing that kept me from beating them to death was the fact that I knew that if I did that and I got caught, not only would I go to jail, but I would run the risk of possibly dying myself. And that was what stabbed me back. And that's one of the reasons why it's always stayed with me. And even though it's barbaric to a lot of people, and even though we do need to work on making sure that innocent people don't wind up on death row,
that's a huge part of it.
Not only does it deter some people, it actually has stopped. I mean, not only does it deter people from taking things too far, it's actually stopped at least one person I know of from committing murder. So there's always that. So I mean, I'm not opposed to doing things to make sure that, one, it stays constitutional, two, that we find other ways to complete the executions. And one of the things that we had tried to float was, I believe it was nitrogen they were thinking about using. I
thought lethal injection was the only thing that we were doing right now, but I'm not really well versed on that part.
Well, no, it is. There's actually an old part of the Oklahoma Constitution where it used to be either lethal injection or firing squad. They threw out the firing squad portion, so for now it is only lethal injection. But one of the things that they had been looking at, and I think it was nitrogen. I don't remember. It was either nitrogen or hydrogen. They had figured out a way to do it as kind of a gas chamber type situation where it was flooded with either nitrogen or hydrogen, and eventually they just went to sleep and they never woke up. And I think that's one of the reasons why they put this language here. And I understand there are going to be certain people that won't support it. I personally probably will vote for that one only because I think it will help streamline a lot of the other processes and hopefully do more to make sure that things stay within the realms of constitutionality. But that's just me.
Okay. So the agriculture part, I'm really not very well versed in that because I wasn't raised in the farming world, so to speak, or farming and ranching. I do believe that farmers are the backbone of this country as far as, things that we have that are our natural sources. So, food, et cetera, growing, things like that nature, the things that we consume. So I don't know much on that. You might know more on the agriculture part. I'm not really sure. It kind of sounds like they're just wanting to make sure that these people are, I guess, more protected from loss because a farmer can really suffer a lot of loss, I guess.
Well, the thing about it is, and this is my honest take on 777, which is the one that you're referring to right now. I have tried to study this one backwards and forwards, and depending on which commercial you listen to, it's either the best thing since sliced bread or the worst idea ever. My problem with 777 is when you look at the language, there's almost nothing there, and what it says makes no sense. My common practice is, I'm not the type of guy to give my IQ out on the air, but I'm just going to say I'm not a stupid person. So if I can't understand the language of a bill when I spend a lot of my time reading through old constitutional documents and old constitutional studies and everything else, if I can't understand it, there's no way in heck I'm voting yes for it because I don't honestly know what it is that they're trying to do. Because the simple fact that they're trying to pass a law to make sure that farmers have the constitutional right to farm, they already have the constitutional right to farm. And if you look at some of the language, it actually looks like it's more designed to help big farms than it is to help little farms. And I'm opposed to that, especially now that I live out in the middle of nowhere and I have farmers living right next door to me. I don't want to do anything that might wind up jeopardizing their livelihood, and to a point what I hope is about to be mine. My wife and I are actually starting a chicken farm.
How nice. That's very neat.
So my answer on 777, only because the language is really murky, it makes absolutely no sense, and there's no discernible pattern as to what it is they're trying to do, that one's going to get a no vote from me. So.
Yeah, and well, anything that's going to be big corporate, I'm going to tend to shy away. I'm for the little guy, the underdog, so, that's kind of where I stand on that. The increase of the sales tax by 1%.
Not only no, but hell no.
Okay, 1% because you are the 1%er? I'm just kidding.
No, because there's see, the thing that a lot of people may not realize, there's already, because I didn't until I actually started looking into it a few years ago. There is already a state sales tax. I wasn't even necessarily aware of that, because there's already a state sales tax of like 4.5%. So when we pay the sales tax of like 8, 9%, whatever the case may be, that's not all city sales tax. That's what a lot of folks try to tell you it is, but it's not. And that's why in some places you can pay as high as 11% here, because 4.5% of that already goes back to the state. But this goes back to the same thing that we were talking about a second ago with the misappropriation of funds, the fact that we had all of this casino money that came in, and then just like they did with the lottery money, when all the money started coming in, they shrunk the general fund by that amount instead of sinking the money they already had for education plus the extra money into education to make things better. No, they didn't do that. They shrank the overall budget. They used that extra money to fill in the education budget, and then we're still basically right back where we started, because we're still spending almost the same amount on education that we were. It's just now being funded from another source. So it didn't really change anything. It didn't really make anything any better, not to mention the fact that there's also usually anywhere from 40 to 45% of these things that are always earmarked for higher education. I don't necessarily have an issue with that either, for the most part, until now. Because look, this is the same problem that we have every single time. We are a very large state with a very low population. There are ways that we could make the education system a million times better by consolidating a lot of these smaller school districts into bigger districts with one administrator instead of 12. So we're not, and we could also implement things like for the failing school districts. Why are the failing school districts still paying their superintendents anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 a year to run a failing school district? If your school district is failing, you should get, I work in, my day job is performance-based pay. I don't get my bonuses unless I hit certain numbers. Why do these people not have the same thing? Make their base salary X amount of dollars. If they hit a certain set of numbers and they're where they're supposed to be, they get the extra money as a bonus. When they don't, that money gets held and it gets sunk right back into the schooling system so that eventually they can get their bonuses back. There are ways that we can fix this without taking another 1% out of my pocket, because that we already have a state income tax and we have a state sales tax, and now they want to raise the state sales tax. No.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on this. I do. I do agree, because in a perfect world, or in a utopian world, the 1%, if it was appropriated properly, you might not have as big of an issue with. But I completely agree. We're already getting hit with the sales tax and the state income tax. And I was just talking to somebody from Texas the other day talking about how glad they were that they didn't have that. So, yeah, I really don't think the way that people feel right now, especially with the controversy in this election, I just don't see that. But we'll have to see what happens on November 8th.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen here. I see all the commercials with Toby Keith and everybody's like, it's for the children, Rick. You got to do it for the children. That's the same thing.
That's if we had proof of that.
That's the same thing that Brad Edwards said with the casino, though. And it's the same thing that they said, or was it Brad Henry? Not Brad Edwards. I'm confusing people here at this point. But Brad Henry with the casinos and then the lottery. It was all for the children, for the children, for the children. They got to do it for the children. We did it for the children. It didn't accomplish anything, because all you guys did was take the extra money and go, oh, we can do other things with this now. And it's time. We all have to do it. When I'm broke, I don't get to go run up my credit card to $5 million and say, I don't have to pay that this week. That's not how that works. It's not how it should work for the federal government, and it's definitely not how it should work for the state government. The simple fact of the matter is there are ways that we could make this better without putting the burden of it right back on the poor and the working class, and that's exactly what this is about to do. I mean, we're talking about another. I mean, I know everybody. It's only a penny. It's only a penny. No, it's not. You're talking about a penny out of every single penny of every dollar out of every single purchase for anybody within our borders, going into a fund that is supposed to go into a lockbox, and 40% of that off the top goes into higher education. What nobody we keep talking about how the state shrinks the budget every time the extra money for the education comes in. We don't ever really talk about what winds up happening, though.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
All right, so technical issue averted, or technical issue resolved, crisis averted. We dumped the guest for a second. We've got her back. So as I was saying just a second ago before we got rudely interrupted, the thing that nobody talks about with the higher education thing is, you know, they've always got their finger in these extra monies. And what they wind up doing is they get all this extra money through all of this stuff, and then they still wind up raising their tuition rates and doing all these other crazy things because supposedly the money's not going to go as far. So, no, I mean, for this one, I'm out. You know, I was actually one of the only conservatives I know that was for the lottery because I bought into it that time. And, you know, I spent a lot of my teenage years in states like Seattle where I watched crazy people buying tickets and getting lucky. And I was like, hey, you know, I remember the old 80s commercials. You can't win if you don't play. And I was like, hey, well, at least once in a while now I have the option to buy a ticket. Maybe I'll get lucky and become a millionaire. So I bought into the hype with the lottery. I'm not buying it this time, and they're not getting any more of my damn money.
Well, I think that's a good idea. And I think this country is just very depressed over the financial situation and the waste. And this state has just cut back, like, incredibly. And so I think that people really want fiscal responsibility. I think they really want to know that money is going to be handled appropriately. And we can wish and want for that forever and come up with all kinds of get-rich-quick schemes, so to speak. But like you said, it really just depends what the politicians really are going to do. It sounds great on paper, it's great lip service, but the action and what's actually going to be passed into law and changes that we're going to make, that's going to be, the proof is going to be in the pudding. It's going to be showing the people that fiscal responsibility. So I don't think asking for any more tax money is appropriate until we can show that we can handle what we're already doing. So.
No, exactly. I mean, because look, I understand that they're screaming budget shortfalls and this and that and the other, but the simple fact of the matter is this state is not nearly as broke as they pretend to be. They're just suffering through cutbacks from the oil stuff, and I understand that, but, you know, that goes back to another issue, because remember when I'd mentioned that as a teenager I was in Seattle? That was because my mom was working in the oil industry when I was a kid, and the company that she worked for went belly up. So she had been she'd been dating a guy that was in the Air Force for quite some time, and then when her job went away, his job went away. So he wound up up and moving, and the next thing I know, we're going with him. So I spent a good part of my teenage years jumping back and forth between Oklahoma, Seattle, and then eventually Oklahoma and Delaware. But, you know, I remember when I was a kid, all the politicians talking about when the dust had finally settled and the last, the first oil bust had really started to clear. They had promised us that they were going to do things to make sure that stuff like this didn't happen again. And then the money started coming in again, and they didn't keep their promises. And that's another reason why I'm saying no to this, because this is another scenario where they'd already made us promises of what they were going to do with the casino money and then the lottery money and now this money. They didn't keep their promises on the other 2 times we gave them extra money or ways to get extra money. So I don't think they're going to do it this time. And this time they're not offering us anything for it. They're trying to take it from us. And I'm done giving them money. Because of the way I have to file every year, I wind up having to pay state income tax most years. I'm not going to keep paying them on the back end and then also not only have them taking money out of the top of my check that apparently for some reason still isn't enough by the time it's all said and done, because I have adult children that I have to take care of, so I don't get the deductions for them anymore because they're special needs kids and they have money of their own. You know, never mind the fact that if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be alive still. But so I mean, I'm out every year as it is, and now they want to take another penny out of every dollar that I spend. No, I'm just over it. No, it's not going to happen. And it still may pass, but it won't pass with my vote. That's all I know.
Not with mine either, and I hope that the people of Oklahoma will make good, solid decisions on Election Day with all of these state questions. It's been very readily available, the information to the public. A lot of it is people just not being apathetic about voting and what they're voting for. A lot of the politicians that I saw speaking at the city council town hall type meetings that I went to where they were addressing these issues, they feel like when they go out to canvass and campaign, people really just don't want to listen. They just don't care. We have become the I don't care society, and they feel like they don't know how to reach out. They're almost confused, is what it sounded like to me. Oh, well, you're not voting, you're not out voting. It's almost like we'll just walk right by your house and go somewhere else. I don't know that that's the best way to handle it. I mean, sometimes if you just because you're going to reach adversity with your constituency doesn't mean not to continue to reach out. A lot of times they've admitted they go through and look at who's registered to vote. And they'll just completely skip over the people that have not registered to vote because, in their opinion, those people do not care. In my opinion, if you reach out to those people, and whether they agree with you or not, give them the time of day, give them the choices, give them the facts so that they can make decisions. I think that if people felt like they were important enough for the politicians in their districts to reach out to each and every one of them, not just the ones that are registered, I think they could motivate people to actually vote. And with that would come some serious winds of change in Oklahoma. That's what I got from listening to the reps and the senators that are in our legislature. They don't feel like people want to vote or that they're even interested at all in what's going on. But that's not true because every day you and I both hear a lot of people complaining. I mean, I know I do. It's every day. And I think it gets really a lot more massive around election time. But I feel like I just can't catch a break. Every day, got to hear about somebody complaining about this or that, you know. Well, it takes more than just, complaining, sitting around bitching about it. I hate to put it that way. So if we could give these politicians a run for their money, maybe there could be some changes made if there was bigger voter turnout. Not sure how you feel about that, but that's really what I got from it on a grassroots level anyway, for the local communities and the local districts.
No, I mean, and I don't know, because, I mean, I've always been a fan of higher voter turnout until I started seeing all the people on supposedly my side of the aisle. They're like, I've never voted before, and I'm
idiot vote.
I'm gonna go vote for Donald Trump, and then as soon as I'm done the next day, I'm gonna go get some beer because the liquor stores are closed on polling days. But I'm gonna go get me some 6 Point on Monday so I can drink it as soon as I cast my vote for Trump. And that is, I'm not making fun of anyone. I swear I've actually talked to people that sound just like that.
Oh no, these are real people. It's called the idiot vote. He has reached the idiot. Boy, I'm really going to lose a lot of friends here. He has lost sight, or he hasn't lost sight. The man is completely 100% aware of everything he's saying and doing, purposely. But yeah, that he has got a very large section of uneducated, ignorant people that have not read their history books, that need to go back and read their history books before they just spout things off that are not even true. You know, one thing that I've really tried to learn with doing this show with you is research. And as a paralegal, I'm researching cases for attorneys. Well, at the same time, when I do this show, I want to research my opinions so that I don't sound completely uneducated and ignorant when you and I have these conversations, or if I have these conversations with anyone. But right now, there is a faction of people out there that if it sounds good and it looks good and it sparkles bright enough, that's got to be it. It's the sign. It's the sign of the times. That's just the way that I'm viewing that right now.
Yeah, and you'll know them when you see them on social media because, especially on things like Twitter, they all have frog avatars. I swear to God, it's like the plague of frogs all over again. But believe it or not, we're actually already really long at this point, so we need to start wrapping things up. Let's get some debate predictions. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Hillary's going to hold her own again? You think Trump's going to come back? Are they both going to tank it, which is what I'm voting for?
Well, I don't know that you're going to get what you want, but it sounds
I usually
ideal.
don't.
My thing with Trump, I don't believe that he is really that concerned about all the accusations with locker room talk, things that he has said about women, things that he has said about all kinds of people. I mean, the list goes on. Disabled people, women. It's all muddling the issue, though. I mean, I agree it's wrong, but what we're forgetting here, this man loves controversy. He loves to be hated. He is the J.R. Ewing of the 2016 election. To be so hated and not care, that tells me he is the real Teflon Don. He is not above reproach, and by having this facade, he enjoys it. Because being hated shows, in my opinion, his complete lack of ability and interest in having any feeling, any sympathy, sentiment, or empathy. I mean, love to hate, hate to love. So, I actually had a funny thing happen the other day. I was purchasing furniture, and the salesman was talking about how so many people had been talking about Trump everywhere. They're talking everywhere about him. And that he says that a lot of people are saying this man's only running to actually get Clinton voted in. To make everybody hate him so much that they'll say, well, gosh, we got to go with the lesser of the two evils here. So, and I know that sounds like a really bizarre theory, and I laughed when I heard it. But, I mean, everybody wants to say, oh, we've all said bad things. Oh, we've all said bad things. We've all been, had our moments where we said stupid things. So what, that just means allow him to just keep saying stupid things? I've heard a lot of stupid things coming out. So it just seems to me like the more people antagonize him about what he is saying and go for the jugular for what he is saying against this faction or this group or this sex, this gender, blah, blah, I think he's just eating it up. That's just my opinion on Trump. That part I think he'll continue to showboat. I think he likes ratings. I think he likes having a celebrity status. I personally met someone that was on the LA season of The Apprentice with him. Very difficult person, she said. So that's where I stand with him on that. With Clinton, I think she's going to have a difficult time with the email controversies and all of that mudslinging involving the emails and Benghazi. I just think there's going to be a huge, onslaught of that in this very last debate, because it is the thing that everybody always defaults back to. I mean, bosses don't know everything. Servers are not perfect. They're hacked into. I don't care what server it is, which actually makes the legal profession very difficult when you have confidentiality in files, because I think with technology the way it is now, I don't see that there isn't anything that can't be hacked into. So if you want something to be private and personal and not regulated by the government, forget it. The way I feel is that's how it's going to continue to be. Benghazi is not about one person. It's been an investigation about the 4 brave American men that were killed in Libya. We've spent 2 years and $7 million in taxpayer funds on one of the longest and most partisan congressional investigations in history. So, I mean, there is a lot of, I could say, in response to reports from the Pentagon, testimonies from different officials basically discussing that there was a lot of factors involved in the security in the U.S. facility, and things do get really crazy and not very organized in these types of situations. But I think if you're asking, about the presidential debates themselves, I think she'll continue to get hit with that. I think that she will be forced to address it where I haven't heard her really addressing it a whole lot. I've seen her continuing to talk about what she thinks is wrong with Trump and talking about women and children. This is what I want for women and children. Really going for the female vote and really going for the people she knows are absolutely not going to vote for Trump or are vehemently opposed to voting for Trump. So I think Hillary has got to step it up and put it out there, and defend her stance on the emails and on Benghazi and put it to bed. That's my prediction, is that she will be forced to answer some hard questions in regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, look, my whole thing with the server incident, look, you can say whatever you'd like. You can say that the government servers stood just as good a chance of being hacked, etc. My whole thing with that is, look, she knows what classified means, whether she wants to tell everybody she didn't. And the simple fact of the matter is, even the FBI director said that as far as he was concerned, she was negligent, but he didn't find any intent. The specific law that he referenced doesn't require intent. The simple fact of the matter is he used the word negligent, which means that he could have moved forward with charges. He chose not to. It's a moot point at this point because she got away with it regardless. The only thing that would stop that at this point is if Trump does get into the White House and suddenly he decides that he's going to make good on his promise to throw her in jail, which I am also opposed to, by the way, no matter how much of a knee-jerk cheer he got out of it, because that's not something that a presidential candidate should be saying, because it's no different than Obama's "I have a pen and a phone" comment. It just sounds better to our side of it because they're like, oh, see, somebody's saying something that I like now because she's finally going to get what she deserves. No, he's basically telling you that if you don't agree with him at some point, you might wind up going to jail too, but you're not wanting to pay attention to that. And that is another reason why I've been firmly opposed to both of them. They've both done things in their past that were completely shady, one of them in private sector, the other in public, and I don't think that either one of them has been the best in disclosures. The simple fact of the matter is one of the reasons why Donald Trump does not want to disclose his taxes is because he knows on paper he doesn't look like he owns anything. Which he's a businessman. That I owned a business once. I know how that works. Anything that you can write off, you write off. We do it here at the station all the time. If I can write something off, I'm going to write it off because I'm allowed to. But that's why I think it's so asinine that he keeps telling everybody he's going to be the one to change the system. His friends won't let him change the system. He'd be dropped faster than JFK if he tried to. It's asinine to even think that. But as far as the debate itself, I don't know how it's going to wind up because the first one was just kind of all over the place. They were both a little crazy. Hillary held her own a little bit better in the first one, in my opinion, than she did in the second one. He actually managed to get under her skin quite a bit, so I mean, even though I don't like the guy, I called the first debate for her. I called the second debate for him. So this one's completely a toss-up. I think there.
Well, yeah, she does tend to hold her own more, and I think that Donald Trump could bring out the worst in anybody. I don't care who you are.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he can.
It's really, yeah. I think she's had quite a bit of resolve, honestly. At the end of the day, with everything, I still think that she has come out. I agree with you. I think she definitely came out ahead on the first one. I actually had class the night of the second one, and I didn't get to really watch it. I heard a lot of, different opinions here and there. So on the second debate, I'm not real sure. I know the vice presidential debates were a completely chaotic. But, that's the vice presidential debate. It was really all over the place. So I'm really hoping that tomorrow evening we can get a final say from each person. And really after that, all we can do is wait until November 8th. And I think there'll be a huge, deep sigh of relief one way or another at this point. How about you?
Yeah, let's just say I'm ready for November 9th. I don't even care about November 8th anymore. Let's get to the day after. But you brought up the presidential debate, so on the way out, I do want to bring up something, because this is something that I thought was completely hilarious. Because after the first debate, when Donald Trump, anytime she would open her mouth, even in her designated speaking time, he's like, but, and they're like, Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump, but. So in the presidential debate, the shoe was on the other foot. And Kane was all up in Pence. Every time he turned around, he was interrupting him, he was cutting him off, he was saying this, he was saying that. Even though they were watching the exact same behavior as their candidate the couple weeks prior, they're watching
that is something that was pointed out. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. That is the truth.
They are watching the same behavior on the other side, and it's not okay now because, by God, let Donald Trump talk. Well, isn't he basically doing the same thing that Donald Trump just did to Hillary Clinton? Why was it okay a couple weeks ago and it's not okay now? That's been my issue with all of this for this entire time. I thought we had outgrown this. Well, it's okay from my side, but it's not okay for yours, damn it. I thought we were past that. Apparently, not only are we not
we're
past
on the playground, and it's the 4th grade.
Exactly. I mean, not only are we not past that, we're back there with steroids. All right, so anyway, on the way out, I'm not sure if you still have a social media presence or anything that you want to give out on air, but we do need to make our way out of here. We got another show coming up here in just a few minutes.
No problem.
Right, so
I look forward to speaking to everybody again next time and visiting with you again soon. Take care and happy election to everyone.
Yeah, can we just get it over with now, please, and thank you? All right, folks, we are out now. As always, if you choose to follow along, you're welcome to do so on Twitter. It is one of the best ways to keep up with me, and you can do that at AOTR_host. And I am out of here. You guys have a great night. I will see you when I see you, and take care.
Don't